So, Varjak Paw, chapter 28. If you remember, they just got back into the Contessa's house. They emerged in the corridor. It was empty. The cat's door clicked shut behind them. Holly turned to it at once, nudged it with a paw. It stayed shut. "Let me try," said Varjak. He pushed, but it wouldn't open. It had locked from the inside. "So you can come into this place," said Holly, "but you can't leave." "The gentleman must have changed it," said Varjak, a knot of tension growing in his stomach. This wasn't a good sign. He looked around the corridor. The thick green windows were closed, the lace curtains drawn. It looked normal, except that, like the garden wall, everything seemed much smaller and older than he remembered. The faded rugs, the stuffy furniture, compared to the city, it was more like a display in a shop window than any real place. The silence made it stranger still. There were none of the city sounds here. There was no one about either, not the family, not the gentleman, not those black cats of his. Yet it smelled strongly of cats, as if there were lots of them very near. His whiskers tingled. This wasn't right. Where were they all? Varjak and Holly shook the rainwater from their fur and moved stealthily along to the hallway. At the top of the stairs, above the musty carpet, the Contessa's door was closed. Varjak pricked up his ears. He could hear something up there, a long, low, mewling noise. But further down the corridor, he thought he could hear cats talking. "I'll look upstairs," whispered Holly. "You check out down here, in case I find them. What do your family look like?" Varjak paused. "A bit like me," he said, "but different. Be careful. Run if you see a man or two black cats with him. They're dangerous." Holly headed up the stairs. Varjak edged along the corridor. He tried to empty his mind of thoughts, as Jalal had said, so he could shadow walk, but it was no good. The thoughts kept coming. Where were the family? Were they all right? Would they be glad to see him, or had they forgotten about him already? He could clearly hear voices now coming from the front room. The door was half open. He crept up to the edge where he wouldn't be seen and peered in. There they were, the Mesopotamian Blues, alive and well. Relief flooded through him. He wasn't too late. He hadn't let them down. There was no sign that they'd been hurt, no sign of the gentleman or his cats. It looked like a family council was in progress. But it was Julius who sat now on the Contessa's red velvet armchair. The others were clustered around him, fiddling with their collars as they listened to him speak. What was going on? "I don't care," Julius was saying. "But things like this don't happen for no reason," said Father. "Shouldn't we try to find out what it means?" "I'm the head of this family now," said Julius, flexing his muscles. "Does anyone have a problem with that?" There were a few mutters around the room, but no one replied. Varjak couldn't believe his eyes. Things really had changed since he'd been away. Julius was acting like a gang boss. It looked like he'd done to Father what Father had done to the elder Paw. "If we all agree," said Julius, "and the council is over." Varjak took a deep breath and stepped into the room. They turned to stare at him as if he were a stranger. "Varjak," said Mother, "is it really you, sweetheart? Oh, look, everyone, he's back." At once they cleared a space for him, surrounded him with silver blue fur and green eyes. "Varjak Paw, we thought you were lost forever. He's grown, hasn't he? Welcome home, Varjak." Home? Finally, he was home. He looked round the family circle. They were purring and beaming at him. Mother, Father, Aunt Junie, Julius and Jasmine, Jay, Jethro and Jerome. They all seemed so glad to see him. It was good to be back. "Where have you been, son?" said Father. "Outside." "And the elder Paw?" Varjak shook his head sadly. "Gone." Julius stepped between Varjak and his parents. "Things have changed since you disappeared," he said. "I'm head of the family now. Father was for a while, but now it's me." He stuck his chest out to underline the point. He was bigger than Varjak remembered him. He'd grown taller. His body had thickened and become more powerful. His collar was tight around his neck. He looked extremely well fed. Varjak glanced at Father. He seemed tired and old next to Julius. It was obvious who would win in a fight. Perhaps it already had happened. "Congratulations," said Varjak to his big brother. "That's not all that's changed," began Father. "No, things are better for us now than they've ever been," interrupted Julius. He pressed something down beneath his paw. It was the toy mouse. "The gentleman's been very good to us." "Him," said Varjak. "His cat's killed the elder Paw." There was a gasp around the room, but Julius just looked annoyed. "You're lying," he said, raking his claws across the mouse. It had become ragged. Its fur was wearing away. "The gentleman loves us. His cats are our friends. Why would they do a thing like that? They wanted to stop us going outside." "Well, there's your answer," said Julius. "They were only trying to help. If you hadn't been doing something wrong—" Varjak bristled. It was Julius who was wrong. Varjak knew he was, but Julius could always make his lies so convincing, and Varjak couldn't find an answer fast enough. Now, said Mother, Julius is right, Varjak. The gentleman still feeds us wonderful food every day. As for his cats, Julius shot her a look and she coughed. Well, that's enough of that, she said quickly. But just look at you, sweetheart. Haven't you grown? And those scars on your face. You've changed so much I hardly recognised you. What scars, said Varjak, and remembered Ginger and Razor and Sally Bones. He smiled. The world outside had left its mark on him. Well, I've had a few fights. A voice like milk in the morning purred in his ear. Cousin Jasmine. Why, Varjak, you're not a little kitten anymore. Varjak's ears perked up. He'd always liked Jasmine more than the others. He'll always be our little kitten, said Mother. She licked Varjak's coat, smoothed his fur. He didn't object. He let her warm tongue wash away the rain from the storm and the city's grime, let her strip him of the smell of outside. That's right, said Julius, glowering at Jasmine. He's still a kitten. So what's it like outside, said Jay. What happened to your collar, said Jethro. And how'd you get those scars, said Jerome. I'll tell you, said Varjak, though Julius was now glowering at them. I'll tell you everything. Varjak didn't tell the family about his dreams. He didn't think they'd understand that part, but he told them all about the city, the fights, the friends, the vanishing. It felt strange to tell his tale at last. It didn't feel real. It was more like a dream or a fantasy. The Mesopotamian blues, young and old, gazed at him, listening silently, captivated by his descriptions of life outside. By the time he got to Cludge, even Julius seemed enthralled. Varjak's brought glory to the family, said Father when it was over. Varjak did his best to look humble, but it wasn't easy. I always said he'd turn out well if we brought him up right, beamed Mother. Jasmine purred at him. Jay, Jethro and Jerome looked at him with new respect, but Julius just snorted. That's a good tale, he said, toying with the gentleman's mouse. Except it's only a story, isn't it? I know you, Varjak Paw. I bet you were so scared you didn't do half those things. Julius's pupils narrowed. He puffed his fur out, making him look even bigger than he was. Varjak's throat tightened. A fight was the last thing he wanted at this moment of triumph. He looked into the fireplace. It was cold. Yes, sometimes I was scared, he admitted. But everything I said was true. You scrawny little insect, sneered Julius. Who do you think you are coming back here and lording it up like this? You think we care about your stupid stories? Julius, cooed Jasmine in her milky voice. I do believe you're jealous. Julius ignored her. He's not even a proper Mesopotamian blue, he hissed. Never has been, never will. He flicked the toy mouse aside and stared at Varjak with green eyes full of contempt. That's not true, Julius, said Father. Of course Varjak's a Mesopotamian blue. Only a blue could do those things. He's not one of us, growled Julius. Eyes the colour of danger, isn't that right, little insect? Something rose in Varjak's heart. His mind was catching fire. All those times Julius had made fun of him, made him miserable, made him feel small and weak. Don't call me that, he said. Insect, spat Julius. I don't like it. I never liked it. It's what you are. Now come on, I'll squash you flat. Something snapped in Varjak. All right, he heard himself yell. Don't, Varjak, said Jasmine, he'll kill you. Julius hissed at her. She shrank back and was silent like the rest. Varjak's face was burning, but he had no choice now. He had to go through with it. Varjak and Julius started to circle each other, stalking around the Contessa's empty armchair. The family made a ring around them. Everyone was watching, silent with bated breath. Varjak breathed in. 2, 3, 4, and dropped smoothly into slow time. Julius glared at him with scornful green eyes and bared his teeth. Varjak glared right back, bared his own teeth. Julius looked surprised. Come on, Julius Paw, said Varjak. Squash me flat. Julius lunged in. He was quick for a cat of his size, but Varjak was quicker, more agile, a moving circle of pure energy. He stepped aside. Julius bit heavily into space. His teeth cracked together. It sounded painful. Don't ever call me an insect again, said Varjak. Julius roared. He raked out with a strong silver blue paw. Varjak was too fast once more. Julius missed and lurched into the armchair. Jay, Jethro and Jerome giggled. Were they laughing at his moving circle? Varjak turned to see them giggling at Julius instead. He smiled, but as he looked away, Julius came at him and cracked the side of his face with vicious strength. Varjak staggered back. He hadn't expected that. It hurt. Insect, thundered Julius. Now you've made me angry. He launched a flurry of claws. Senses reeling, Varjak dived away just in time. He had to keep breathing, keep the moving circle going, or Julius would finish him. He dodged the furious attacks that followed, becoming a shimmer that Julius couldn't quite hit. The attacks grew wilder, angrier. Varjak stayed a step ahead, just out of reach as his big brother closed in, until Julius threw everything he had at him in one massive blow. There was no avoiding this one. Varjak had to meet it head on. He breathed out 2, 3, 4, went deep into his circle. The power rose within him, and when Julius came, the circle held true. Varjak turned the blow away, using his brother's own strength against him. Julius went stumbling to the ground. Varjak grinned. It felt good, better than the time he'd fought Razor. It was better than anything, a hot, intoxicating glow that pulsed through every fibre of his being. He'd never felt so alive. Julius was off balance now, weak and exposed. Finish him, thought Varjak. Right now, let loose the energy. He'll never fight again. Do it. No. Enough, said Varjak Paw. Enough and no more. Julius shook his head. I'm only just beginning, he panted. Insect. Julius flung himself through the air out of control, claws splayed. Varjak leaned away in slow time. Crash. Julius smashed headfirst into the fireplace. Looked at Varjak with small green eyes clouded by black ash. Tried to stand up. Couldn't. It was over. Varjak Paw, cried Jasmine. Varjak Paw, the family hailed his conquest. Varjak Paw, Varjak Paw. He closed his eyes. The victory tasted sweet, like cinnamon. He'd done it at last. He was a Mesopotamian blue. Varjak Paw, is that you? A gravelly voice. Varjak's heart skipped a beat. Holly, Varjak, I'm here.